Father in heaven, we thank you for the blessings that you bestow on us. We thank you for our country, our state, and our community. Lord, let us be mindful that we have so much compared to what so many others don't have. We're blessed beyond comparison. Lord, let us appreciate that. Lord, today I want to raise up our commissioners. And I pray that you will guide them with your wisdom and help them to make decisions that are in keeping with your scripture. Lord, let all of us that are here today come in a respectful mood and treat each other as your Son Jesus would have us treat one another. And Lord, I offer this prayer in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, administrative business.
Okay. Just going to try to, I had this up earlier, see if I can get it to go back up there. I'm going to point the remote at you again. Okay. Okay. The first thing I have are the minutes of January 22nd and the minutes of January 23rd.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 22nd meeting. Second by Randy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. January 23rd.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 23rd as presented.
Okay. Randy makes a motion. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. And then you had already approved these minutes, but I didn't have them printed out for the 14th, so just make sure you guys sign those. Thank you. Have change orders. just want to receive the notifications of all the meetings,
Well, that's what happened last week.
only if it's changed. Okay.
That's fine. If you want to Diane, that would do that.
I'm just going to put today's date on it. Okay. Can we just notify you of all the meetings? Because that's the list that you're getting on, is to be notified of all the meetings.
I think I put it on there regular, other than the regular stated meetings.
Okay. We can do that. It's just
Okay.
going to be outside our regular process, and so we're going to have
Outside
to
the regular
remember.
progress date, all right, so.
I have 2 salary changes.
First one's Jamie Shirley ambulance from 2734 to 3,667 additional duties. And Robert Church ambulance from 1781 to 1581, interim EMS director to full-time paramedic.
Okay, a few weeks ago, Deidre had sent over an updated contract for an injury prevention grant that they had, and you all approved it, and Diane signed it as chair. Well, they have a new person, and so the person that they sent the signature for is not the right person, and so we have to re-sign. And so now they are asking for you to sign it. There are 4 places to sign. This is already approved. It's just that they needed to update their side. So we have to redo.
Okay.
So I just need chairman's signature on all 4 of those spots.
Today's 28th.
Yes.
Is Brad gonna be here today?
I believe so. when you reorganized for the year, you had made a tentative appointment for SCED, you to serve on that.
Yes.
And you wanted to make sure Randy Collett was still serving, and he is.
Okay.
And so, we were planning to send you in as the at-large member.
Okay,
You're
that's
still
fine.
good with that?
Yep.
Bud notified me that the pre-construction meeting for the transfer station is gonna be January 30th at 10 o'clock at the city building. Generally, the board does not attend the pre-construction meetings on projects. Is this something that you want to change? Do you want to start attending them? Cause then that makes it an open meeting, where usually it's just the contractor and the engineer. But if you wanna go, you can. Sometimes one commissioner will come, but if you decide that you wanna all go, I need to do a notice, and then it's open to the public also.
What's the
Before we've
commission's?
done it, send the chairperson and chairperson to be attend. So that's.
Or you can designate someone if you want to, or if you all wanna go. I mean, it's
Yeah,
up to
I
you
mean,
all. I
right,
just
that's
would
fine.
like to know what
Right.
you would like to do.
That kind of been the.
It's just what we've done. I mean, it don't have to be that way. If everybody wants to attend, I don't see no reason why they can't, but I mean, this is just a agreement, just sort of to make sure that everybody does the right thing at the right time, so, and there may be something we catch that, we don't have.
What time was that again?
It's 10 o'clock
10
on
o'clock
the 30th.
at the city building?
Uh-huh.
You gotta attend.
Are you
I
planning to?
can do that.
Is that what the board would like, is just to designate Kent?
That's fine with me.
Okay. In your packet, you have the budget letter from Scott Lloyd. And for them to go ahead and help with the budget this year, then you would need to approve that. The engagement letter.
And that cost was
$21,000, yeah.
Any discussion on, the engagement letter from Scott Lloyd?
Yep.
Okay. If there isn't, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the engagement letter from, Swindle, Jansen, Hawk, and Lloyd for the budget in the amount of $21,000.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there are 2 copies there to sign. The county has, and really all public agencies that are, that receive any federal funding, they have to keep their information up to date on a computerized system called, it's known as SAM, it's called System of Awards Management. And that is something that the sheriff and I do every year, and I'm the administrator of the site for Marion County. This year's the first year they have asked for a notarized letter from the agency designating the site administrator, and this is, comes from the chairperson. And since my name is on here as the administrator, and it does not authorize any third parties to administer our site. You have a lot of companies that go around and try to solicit and try to do this for the agencies, and they charge money. And so this just tells them we are doing this in-house and who is authorized. We have completed our system update for this current year, so we're current, but we still need to submit this letter.
Written something that needs approval.
I think it'd be great to go ahead and just as a matter of reference to do the approval, and then I'll have you sign it, but I'm gonna bring in a notary that is not me.
Right.
To witness your signature.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to designate Tina Spencer as administrator for the SAM government registration processing? Or does anyone want to read this?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion to designate Tina Spencer as the administrator of the SAM governing registration processing.
Okay. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let me get Marcy or somebody
Okay.
there to witness that before you sign.
You need my driver's license?
This one you can say, it says, personally known or provided by use. That was all we had.
Okay.
That's all you have for administrative?
I believe so.
I would like to, if I may have just 1 minute, I want to ask a question,
Okay.
if I may. Okay, so I would like to ask a question, and my question is actually to the commission and maybe Tina. We did have executive session on Tuesday, and I'm the one that requested the executive session on Tuesday to discuss personnel. And then that meeting was followed up by an executive session on Wednesday morning with Jesse in the meeting. And it's interesting to me, as I left here, and I was doing some research on our meeting and so on and so forth, and I learned that somebody had leaked out some things that was discussed in that meeting. And I find that to be extremely unethical. I made some phone calls to some counties and so on and so forth pertaining to the subject matter that we were talking about, and I was informed that the day prior that they had already sent some information to Tina. And so I guess my question is, I don't know how, because Tina was not in those meetings, how she would have known what we were discussing ahead of time. So it was interesting. I called, well, for example, I called Saline County, and I spoke to the HR person and also the clerk, and she had said, well, I sent some information to your clerk, Tina, yesterday, which would have been Wednesday, and we had the executive session on Tuesday. And so I'm just wondering, you know, since you weren't participating in that executive session, how you knew to do that.
Okay. I didn't know what your information you were talking about until you said the HR. I don't know what you discussed in executive session. I was asked to check with some surrounding counties for job descriptions for a particular position.
And so who
Just
asked you to do that?
I was asked by Jesse to check with the surrounding counties on a job description, but there was nothing said about anything but an executive session whatsoever.
Well, I had just spoke to Jesse this morning, and he told me he did not. He did not say anything. And I had just got a text from Brad Jans. He said that he had talked to you on Friday, but you had already secured some of that information, which follows exact suit. So there's a gap there somewhere, because that's what we had discussed in executive session.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until you just said that.
Okay. Well, I guess it was just coincidental then.
Because nobody had mentioned anything to me about the meeting or anything. They just mentioned that it would be nice to have some of that information to,
Just in case we need it sometime.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just wanted to know, because I thought it was kind of unethical when I made phone calls and they said, well, we've already sent information. Well, I didn't know that you would know to inquire about it, so I thought.
I was just asked to do that, and I was also asked to take a couple of job openings down from the website, advertising. That was it. So I didn't ask questions. I just did what I was
You
asked.
answered my question.
Yeah. So if you discussed something, I don't know what it was you discussed.
Okay. All right, moving on. Is Jesse here?
Yeah. Jesse?
Good morning.
Hey, Jesse.
Good morning, Jesse.
Area fuel bids this morning. Do you want to pass them now? These can be split up.
Got two bids on area 1, 2, and 3. Here's the,
Here's the area 1.
F would have area 1 and area 3. And Cooperative Grain would have area 2, correct. So area 1, 30, 31, 29 from F.
I just keep them in the code.
Area 3, 43, 22, 18 from Epps. Area 2, 45, 07, I guess that's
4502.
45, 02, 55. So I will make a motion to go ahead and approve those area bids. Second,
Second.
second by Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Is that the correct way to make a suit?
What?
Is that the correct way to make a suit?
I think it's 7 first.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll double check that.
Oh, it
At the
is.
man.
It is.
Okay.
Just different.
Okay. Here I have Jason with BG Consultants for bridge number 40. We had discussed this, what was that, a month or two ago?
Almost a couple months ago, yeah. Board
We had
commissioners.
some difficulties.
Quick little memo, give you a little update here on Bridge 40 progress.
Last time we hit some rock hard.
Last time we hit some rock, yes. They've gotten through most of that. Foundation should be wrapping up here in the next couple of weeks. We'll start seeing a bridge deck put on here, hopefully mid-February, as all the weather holds out. Mid-February, see a bridge deck getting poured. We're still more or less on track to see a project wrap up here late March, early April. And finish that project out, put a fork in it, all good. When I was here last month, at the beginning of December, I mentioned they hit the rock. There was additional cost on the construction contract that KDOT had. They also added about a month's worth of work to the project to deal with that. What I've got here today before you, this morning, in I guess it's the fourth paragraph there on that memo, I mentioned there was going to be some extra additional inspection costs for the extra time associated with that, and about $10,000 worth of inspection costs. So that contract is a three-party agreement between BG, the county, and KDOT, and requires all parties to approve it before it's effective. So what I've got here before you today is basically the calculation of the form on the back here. That's KDOT's form that would increase the upper limit of what we can bill by $10,394.28. This is an hourly thing where it's basically our costs and our overhead costs. There's no profit built into it. It's just whatever extra time we might need on the job. And again, it's our upper limit. If they keep going efficiently, I don't know that we'll even get into that and use that amount, but in case we do need to be out there and they get some rainy weather and some recovery days, and we may need to get into that a little bit. This is all participating costs, so KDOT pays 80% of it. The county would be on the hook for 20% of it. Excuse me. After our last meeting, I did talk to Dickinson County with John Goff and their understanding of it. And still honoring their agreement and their portion, so they'll share a portion of the county's expenses. So.
Okay, this is your contract with BNP Consultants, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If you've got an extra 10,000, what's the extra cost on the actual project going to be?
The change order. If you remember last time, I think it was about 85,000 was the rough estimate
For the change order?
For the change order, yeah.
Oh, I
No, that's okay. It's been a little while.
Okay.
But yeah, it brings the construction budget or the construction cost comes to within about 5,000 or 10,000 of where we originally budgeted. It's a little bit below the original budget, and this is about where we budgeted all the additional expenses and stuff too. So if they wouldn't have hit the rock, we would have been well under budget. Unfortunately, it was encountered when they started digging down.
You say that about a month on to the estimate
Yeah.
for the completion?
Yeah, yep. It added about a month onto that. So
Has anybody seen it yet? I haven't got up there to see it. I have to. I need to go up and see it.
I got some pictures on my phone. No, there's a lot of piers and work coming up out of the ground. It's starting to get there, and within about a month, I'd say if you went out there, it would look like a bridge.
Okay.
Won't be open to traffic yet, but it'll start looking like a bridge. So, but certainly be glad to answer any questions you have. If there are none, like I said, there's the increase of $10,394.28 in the inspection contract. We'll be looking for approval from the commission on that.
So this would be actually a change order here?
Yeah, this would be a change order with our inspection agreement, so not to the construction contract, but.
And we already signed that,
Yeah.
right? Or no?
Well,
we haven't done it.
KDOT
No, we-
manages that, and
Yeah.
the way these work,
Sorry, I said-
the county has already escrowed your portion of the costs with KDOT for the project. So they'll manage the construction contract and the inspection agreements and all that. They'll manage it all the way to the end and see where the overs and the unders are and what the net cost is. And if the escrowed amount is too much, they cut a check back to you. And then if it's not enough, they say, yo, we got a few $1,000 or whatever.
Any other questions?
No,
from the commission? Guess we will need to make a motion to agree to that change order in the amount of $10,390, not to exceed $10,394.28.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
And I'd second.
motion by Diane, seconded by Randy to approve that increase. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The
Sign.
signature date, it's towards the bottom there, the LPA,
Oh, LPA.
the LPA signature.
Okay.
What I'll do, I'll forward that over to KDOT. They'll have to agree to it, approve it as well. I've already talked to them about it, and then I'll That's all up out of the ground, so now it should be clear sailing.
Okay.
We should be good. So.
That's what
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Okay, have a good one. Do you three have anything for me?
Yeah, just a follow-up on that. We were discussing the rock from the wind farm, in specific being delivered to one of the area farmers there.
Okay.
And the information that I have received is that there was never any rock delivered to them.
Correct, that's what I've received.
And they're not, at this point, they're not even asking for any.
It sounds like there may have been a slip up with a text message towards Diane, the inspector out there, saying that he did get some, when come to find out that landowner did not receive any from, am I misspeaking there?
No, and I
Okay.
showed him the text. I do have a text from Brian Fry, and I will have everybody look at it as well. And I point blank asked him the question, and Brian Fry responded to me, yes, ma'am. Okay?
That he did receive.
That
the
he
rock.
did receive the rock, and that Enel rocked his road. And Brian Fry said yes.
So that's where that.
I ran with what Brian Fry told me. I've always trusted everything he said because he's usually very articulate in what he says. And that's one of the reasons to have the representative, so that we have a more reliable source
Right.
to keep us well informed. So, and yes, I want everybody to look at the text, and I did show it to Jesse, and I sent it out. And of course, when you send things out like that, they don't show the dates and things like that. But I will pass my phone and let everybody see that I only said the information I was handed by our representative.
So as of right now, it's still as, what I had brought with last week or the week before was, there was still 300 ton that was still reserved for him at a later date. When they start ripping up the laydown yard, which is we're a ways out from that yet. But that's the last I have of that still.
Yeah, they also forwarded me copies of invoices that from JL Unruh, where they had purchased all the rock themselves.
Okay.
And there's even a certain amount of that on our road, so.
That's how the rock got there.
Yeah.
And I think, quite frankly, though, for what has it been, Jesse, in all reality? How many years has it been that the county was not allowed to be on his road anyway? I mean, he's always done that himself.
He usually has rocked his own road.
And he's done it for years and years and years. And in fact, if a county road grader were to go on his road, he would be very unhappy.
I think, yeah, he doesn't want them on there very often, I don't think so.
Right.
He's never really specifically said that to me, but, I think the guy up in that area kinda knows just to kinda stay off of it for the most part.
Yeah.
So,
And it's been well maintained over the years.
yeah.
Even the ditches mowed all the way out to 15.
He does a fabulous job on it, there's
Yeah.
no doubt. He does a fabulous job, but the county does not do it
Yeah.
by his request.
So, anything else?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Jesse.
All right, thank you.
And I think it's very good, Mr. Becker, that you and him have a very good rapport and that you can take care of him. That's excellent.
I'm more than willing to talk to him.
Good.
I've known him all my life.
Good. I will pass you that baton.
Okay, Restoration Center, Inc., Joey Wildbauer, Carl Taylor.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. Come on up here.
Pretty good.
This is Carl. Yes, you have that.
Okay. Go ahead, Carl.
We're from the Restoration Center. We have moved to the community and have a behavior health center to meet the needs of Marion County and the entire Marion County. What I'd like to present to you first is just a rough of the services that we provide, the accessibility that it makes it.
You have 3 copies
Just
here?
three copies, one for each one of you. Each member of the I'll let you take a look. First, I'll explain. What it is the, first I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to come in and to share about the Restoration Center and the services that we provide. A little background about the Restoration Center, who we are. We are a behavioral health center that has offices in Manhattan, Junction City, Wichita, and our fourth location is in Marion County. Our primary focus is to help with mental health. That's drug and alcohol, mental health services as well. What we have now is at 125 South Main Street here in Marion. We have an office that's located there. The primary purpose of the office is to provide substance abuse services and mental health services for the entire community. How this came about is in Junction City, we was meeting with both the community correction and court services officers, and they stated the need for treatment services in Marion County. What is happening in the county is that men and women are being required to go to substance abuse treatment services, and they're having to drive to McPherson or to Newton just to get access, which is almost impossible. You could tell a person to build a spaceship to the moon. When I don't have a vehicle, or if I'm a SB6 person, that's a person, a full-time DUI offender, he or she does not have a driver's license. So every time they go to treatment, they're operating illegally. For those who are, because of the opioid epidemic, they're going to treatment. That means that they got to find a ride that's, from 60 minutes to 75 minutes one way, and then the class is 3 hours. By supporting this agency in the local community, it cuts that time down. As you look at it, I've spent some time driving through Marion and trying to go through the towns and through the communities to get an idea of what it takes. I'm looking at the farthest city away is Burns, which is 23 miles. It takes 30 minutes to get there, and also Tampa, 21 miles, and rough 30 minutes to get there. And these numbers are estimates that were taken off of just Google Map when I'm map questing, going from place to place. So I wanted to really speak to the importance of a center remaining here in this community. That does not even address the fact that other counties are going to have access to it, like Morris County as well as Chase County. But I understand I'm here in Marion County, and then the cities that fall in there. When I looked at it on the map, the estimated population was varied between 11 to 13,000, depending on which one it is. Accessibility to health care, regardless of how small a community is of vital importance.
So do you travel to these towns then to meet with these people?
No, and that's a good question. By being at 125 South Main Street, it makes it possible for them to come in and see Joy. Now, Joy is she's a primary therapist for the office here in Marion. Joy is an LSCSW. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She is licensed also to provide drug and alcohol treatment services as well. So instead of that person having to leave, and I'll take it to Lincolnville from here, instead of them having to drive to Newton or to McPherson, they can drive 15 minutes and come right here and get the same treatment services. Or a person that's in Florence driving 11 miles to come here, you know the distance better than I do, to drive from Florence to Newton or to McPherson. And these are mandated requirements. And I won't put words in the judge's mouth. I'll let him speak to you and talk to you about the importance of having a treatment program here in the community, that when he does require a person to complete treatment, it is within, if I may use the word, within good knowledge that it is accessible to him or her. We also provide services for St. Francis, and if you're familiar with that agency, they're a state, they represent the state in providing care for children that have been removed from the home for a number of reasons. That person will have to go, if it's drugs or alcohol involved, that parent will have to go to treatment. And without them being able to go here, now they also would be driving 75 minutes to Newton or to McPherson one way. And then when we add that cost in of wear and tear on the car, driving 1 hour, staying there for 3 hours, and then driving back. Groups are generally across the board from 5:30 to 8:30. So at 8:30 they end. They don't get back home till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So there's nobody to help with the homework. And we're talking about people going to treatment 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday or something like that. That's a lot of time that they're on the road traveling.
And so the fact that they have to travel so far in most cases, does that impact their ability to actually attend the classes?
Most of them don't attend. That's just too much of a challenge.
And so then they become back on the rolls again.
And then they're back on the
just
roll.
sink deeper.
And that vicious cycle continues. So now we have a mother or a father whose home was raided for meth or opioid, and the children are the ones that pay the cost, because he or she is separated from the family until the court system can find someone that they deem appropriate to provide care for them, so the child stays in foster care. So now, what really has touched me is that, and we have a group home as well, that in the Manhattan Junction City community, our closest home was in Wichita, and then I was responsible helping to coordinate reintegration treatment from Wichita to Manhattan. That was a bridge too far. That's just, I mean, it's 2 hours one way. When I leave here, I'm gonna go to Wichita, to our office there, and every time when I come through, I go right down 50 and then cut across, or I may go down the highway, and I'm thinking, there is no way that the men and women in our group that are there in Junction City and Manhattan tonight can make this trip 3 days. First, it wears you out physically.
And part of our services are we want to keep them community-based. So community-based services are, so if the client goes to, say, even Newton, and they go to Newton and the drug and alcohol counselor says, well, you need to attend AA or NA twice a week. You need to attend mental health twice a week. They do it in Newton, and those services are done in Newton. They don't ever get to stay in the community and learn how to come back to the community and teach others to stay clean, and teach others that, yes, you can stay in this community and be productive without drugs. So the community base of our program is what we feel is the most important, because we want our people to stay in our community. We want our people to be productive and successful in our community. And if we can give the preventative of drug and alcohol treatment, if we can give them tools and equipment to learn how to be sober and clean and be productive in society and actually acclimate to society again, that's what our goal is.
I'm going to correct you. You're on 125 East Main?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. You said south, but I thought that was east. Are you publicly funded, or are you funded by yourself, or just open as a business, or?
We are a 501c3 agency. Thank you for asking that question. So we are funded. We receive federal and state funding at the Restoration Center. Our funding comes in form of Medicaid as we provide treatment services, SB 123, and what that is, short end of it is go to treatment in lieu of going to a correctional facility, SB 6, which is a third time DUI, a person that has 3 or more DUIs. And in our community, and I'm not just speaking about Marion, there are a number of offenders that are on the road right now that have the 3 or more DUIs that have to have the breathalyzers in their car, and it is mandated that they go to treatment. And then we receive, at this point, as we position ourselves here, to receive funding and being able to have an office here, which will be able to help us in requesting additional funds.
And you said that you originally come across this from our Judge Powers?
No, not from Judge Powers. Okay. But first, Judge Powers, eventually Joy did meet with Judge Powers. When we initially met, we were at Community Corrections in Junction City. And in Junction City, that's where we met the director there in Junction City. And then Tara, who works here in the office, had turned and asked me, she says, is there any way that you could do anything in Marion County? Until I don't even know where Marion County is. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I did not know. I was going through Marion, going to Wichita. And then I told her I didn't know where it was. So we came out, we looked. She showed us the numbers. And what really shocked me is the number of SB 123 treatment clients that are court ordered, that are mandated to go to treatment or go to a correctional facility. And my first question was to them is, how can you mandate a person to go to treatment and you take their license and then require them to go and drive 75 minutes one way to go to treatment? If that's not, in my opinion, that's not a system that's set up for success.
And part of the SB 123 funding is ordered by the state, and so it's a funding that says, okay, so you got a charge that was prison mandated, but we don't want to fill our prisons with drug and alcohol people, so we're going to provide funding within the state that then instead of going to prison, you do the SB 123 funding. That's only one aspect of our funding. The other funding comes from alcohol and tobacco taxes. It comes from private funding, and right now the funding that we're using is based on what Carl's generosity is, because he's actually funding that whole agency right now, and so we're asking for additional funding to fund the people that can't afford the $150 to pay for the evaluation, that can't afford the hourly rate that we charge every 3 hours. It pays for our salary and pays for our overhead. So there's a lot of people, and if you can imagine the people that are low income, and most of the low income people are the ones that are in the judicial system. And so those are the ones that can't afford it. So we look for funding out in the community so that we can support those people and bring them into the community and make them socially functional in our society.
I was just wondering, when the judge orders it, who takes care of the bill then?
When that person has to pay for it or go to a correctional facility. And rough numbers, for a person to stay in a correctional facility, it's $35,000 to $40,000 a year, depending on whose number you want to use. That's a huge cost initially to me. But the real cost is, if mom is away, who's going to be mom? Now, what is the cost to that child? If dad is incarcerated, who's going to fill the role of dad? So what is the cost to that child? So now we create this cycle. And so when Junior gets 15, 16, 17, because we understand the DARE program is many of the prevention programs, after they become teenagers, that's when the challenge really becomes. I pass by the school coming in and I just look over at it and I see that when they're in the 1st through the 6th grade, you can the DARE program and all those preventive programs really work. But the numbers show, statistically numbers show, when they hit 7th, 8th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, that's when the real challenge with alcohol and drugs, they really kick in.
And they become part of what their family was. They become part of what their mom and dad did. So if we're taking our clients and they're in Newton doing NAAA and they're doing treatment, they're not even in the community. Versus if they're in the community, hey, I'm going down the street there and I'm going to do drug and alcohol. Hey, I'm going down to the NA meeting. Then these 15, 16-year-old kids, they learn, oh, if you have a problem, it's okay. It's not hidden in the closet. It's okay. And this community will accept if I'm AA or NA, will accept if I need to get treatment.
I grew up in a small town. I'm originally from Mississippi, so I understand small towns and growing up. And it was, I left there through the Army, where I spent 20 years at, and got out, and then started the Behavioral Health Center. My mom was a substance abuse counselor, drug and alcohol counselor. So I understand, and when I speak primarily of my small hometown, we didn't want anybody to know that we had problems. We didn't want anybody to know we had problems. But we had huge drugs, we had huge alcohol problems. At that time, crack cocaine was the primary substance of use. At that time, when I joined the Army, it was 1983. I can go home now and still see many of my friends that were addicted to that. It is because of the military that threw me the lifeline that got me out. So when we walk in our community and we see the effects, we see our daughters, our nieces, our children that are 21, 22, but because of the harsh effects of those drugs, they look 35 and 40. It has that impact. You can't pass it or walk by it. And it doesn't matter if you're Caucasian, if you're black, if you're what your ethnicity is, drugs and alcohol impacts every community. It does not matter what financial bracket you're in. You can be in the upper bracket or the lower bracket. Drug addicts all meet at the same, as the society calls it, the same trap house, so that they can get their drugs, and they become the best of friends. And not so much as the best of friends, they become common users. So they begin to use, and they begin to connect and associate themselves more as that drug environment community becomes my primary family, and then you have a distant relationship with mom and dad, brother and sister. That's why they don't show up at the family meetings. They don't show up at for Christmas. They don't show up for Thanksgiving. When we had our New Year's celebration for all of us sitting here today, there were some members of different family members who did not show up for Thanksgiving and any of those things. And deep down we understand that some of the challenges is that they're still addicted. They have that addiction. They don't want to come in and face the family and deal with the issues of how am I doing. That question can send a person into a spiral. But it is positive when he or she can come in and say, hey, when you ask your niece, nephew, son, daughter, how are they doing? Or when grandma speaks to them and asks them, honey, how are you doing? That person, they say, grandma, I'm doing okay. I'm going to treatment. I'm here in Marion. I'm going to 125 East Main Street, and I'm going to treatment there. I'm doing better. And what really stands out for me in my small hometown, what really hurts my heart when I go home, that I left, and I understand that I left and I joined the military, but I see the brain drain that's taking part in my own community, where the best and brightest are no longer staying there. They're moving to Jackson, to a larger community, and they're moving to Madison, where it's nicer. And that same thing is happening here in Marion, where when I looked at the numbers over the last 3 to 5 years, it shows a constant decrease, because the services that cause men and women to stay and make small homes a community are only available in Newton and McPherson, so they leave.
And I moved my children to Hillsborough when they were in high school, and I moved them to Hillsborough from Lawrence because I didn't want the drug crowd. And I can remember having my daughter brought in 3 girls, and I said, you guys all need to have a urine test. And they go, what? And I said, because I'm going to be a drug and alcohol counselor. My kids aren't going to hang around drug and alcohol. And they took urine tests to hang around my kids. And then I did treatment with them in my own home. I did that. And they knew that anybody that needed help, they could come to me. I didn't get paid for that. That was my community outreach, because I wanted to make sure that my kids understood that you could do that you could actually help your community in a way that wasn't paid for. Now I'm blessed because I still have that. And I'm blessed to be in a small town. And it's the small towns that make the big towns, but it's also the small towns, the children in the small towns that need the assistance and need to go, I can walk in there and it's okay. Those kids that I helped are now productive parts of Marion and Hillsborough right now. And I walk in the hospital and I see one. She goes, how you doing? And they stayed here. They stayed because they had treatment here.
Our treatment is not something that we just come up with off the cuff. It's a cognitive behavior intervention approach. It is from TCU, Texas Christian University, part of the Big 12, that it is required. They started day 1 and they worked through the program. Some of the parties, they begin to identify goals for themselves. They begin to talk about their list 3 goals, one of the exercise, list 3 target goals. They pick the one that's most important to them, and then we help them go through and work through how do we accomplish their goals. Well, what are some of the things that will prevent us from achieving our goals? And for some, they will put, just to reconnect with my family. What will prevent me from reconnecting with my family? Continued drug use. What are some of the barriers of treatment? I got to go and face my family again. And some of the things that we talk to them about is having that hard conversation with mom, and then owning what you did, or owning that you stole the purse or took the money out of the purse. If you've been the victim of someone taking from you because of drugs or alcohol, the money it plays a part of it, but it is the trust that is destroyed that hurts the most, that cuts the deepest, is that you would really take money from me and go and use. So we just help them to go and have that conversation. And even if they need that support, to invite family members in and ask and encourage them, ask questions. Why does my daughter do this? Why does she leave in the middle of the night, and why does she hang out with that rowdy bunch? Those questions, those are the things that they're losing, that they're learning. They're also learning how to love themselves, and us to teach them how to go forward. There's a jail group at Raleigh County Law Enforcement Center that I have an opportunity of being a part of every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays we work with men, Wednesdays we work with women, and then the challenges between women and men are quite different. Men, they're hurt because they're not providing, they're not being the man, they may be working, but on Friday or whenever they get paid, they disappear for a couple of days. And then when they return home, then all the money is gone. For the women, it's a different thing, is that they have been manipulated and used their bodies to feed their addiction. So that hurt cuts in a different way. How do I get my self-worth back? How do I get my just the value that I see in myself again? And so we're helping them to work through those things. So treatment starts there. That's not something that we can do here, but once they get in the group, you're talking about other people that are having the same challenge, and what we call it is a safe zone, that I can come in and I can talk about the issues that I have that I'm really struggling with, and I can get help. And most of all, they learn from each other. Are there any questions that we can answer?
Well, I think as a commission, we do see the importance of drug and alcohol rehabilitation, especially in rural areas. I think right now we do provide some funding with Prairie View on those kind of things. And I guess my question was, what type of commitment would you want to be asking for from the county to support your endeavors?
But there's a special alcohol fund tax that is across, and what we're asking, as you go through it, look at our proposal, you're going to receive a number of proposals. When I went online and printed it off, it is the Rural Communities Opioid Response Program. It's the fact that you would include us in the review as you look at those things for the funding. I know that there's a number of people, the shoulder tap saturation patrol, cops and shop alcohol service retainer training. There's a lot of different programs that are tapping into it. I just ask that you look at what the mandate states, and then to just go forward from there and look at it and see that they are requiring that those funds be used for treatment and education, not only prevention. I think right now most of those funds are directed at prevention. I think prevention is needed, but at some point we have to address the need for treatment. We cannot put everything in prevention, and we see that we're failing because we have adults. There's no shortage of people in Marion County Jail.
So you have specific statutes?
Yeah, there's specific statutes that state that tobacco and alcohol taxes will be given to treatment providers that provide drug and alcohol treatment. And I can provide you that statute. I didn't bring it today. But I'm not here to say anything negative about anyone, but I understand that Prairie View only does mental health now. So those people, they go to Newton, and that again is taking them out of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a advocate for CASA, so I can comment on that. The people I deal with, the parents, they're traveling to Newton to seek those type of services.
Right.
And I can tell you, out of the cases in Marion County that I'm aware of that involve kids and parents, they all involve drugs. And he mentioned a system that's not set up for success, and he is spot on with that. Because the system we have right now in Marion County, and it's not really anybody's fault. I'm not blaming the judge or anything like that, but it's not set up for success, because a lot of times these people don't have a driver's license. So how do you get to Newton if you don't have a driver's license? So then they've got to rely on friends who are almost always involved in drugs.
And I will say also, to what you're saying, as we discussed, I think, last week, and I presented, I don't know if Tina checked this out yet, but transportation, public transportation is something that we need desperately right here in Marion. And I was referring basically to your sick people with chemotherapies and other type of treatments that they need regularly. But this would fall right in line with that as well. People people who don't have driver's license who need to go to their treatment. And that funded. It's an 80-20 program, but I believe Tina's office is going to check into that so that perhaps we could get on the wagon with it, like the other counties provide 5 vehicles, and just go to the home, pick people up and bring them,
That
and then
would be
take them
great.
back home. And I think that would be another very important part of, to assist
And
in
I
this.
have a client that comes to treatment right now, and she's on a Medicaid card, and the Medicaid taxi driver actually comes from Salina, picks her up in Hillsborough, drives her over to the group, stays for 3 hours, drives her back, and goes back up to Salina. And I'm told that he makes $400 a month just doing that.
And see, I think it is exceedingly sad that our county has not jumped on this before, because our county is hurting in various areas. And I think a lot of our tax dollars, although well meant to be spent, we need to look more seriously at providing services to our people who are suffering for whatever the reason. And that's a big thing, is not being able to get there. What are you gonna do?
So, you know,
You know, what are you gonna do?
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm on board with what you're saying. I see it, I know it's a reality, sadly enough. And I do think the county can do a lot more than what we've been doing. And, I'm glad that we're starting to look at some of these things. And, because especially the drug addiction is just out of control.
That is true.
And that, I think a lot of times, even people who know turn their backs, turn their heads. They don't want to even acknowledge it, let alone step up and help people. And that's just what I see.
We had DCF actually contact us, because they can't find anybody to do a UA in Marion. And so the DCF people that are on, trying to keep their kids in their home are coming down and doing UAs.
Sad, very sad.
How long you been open?
December 17th.
And I would like to welcome you, just stop by, come in and look at it. It's a small office, we're starting there. And then as time allows and as funding allows itself, we'll probably plan to move to a bigger place. I like where we are right now, because it's right on Main Street. It's right there on Main Street. And to the question you asked earlier, how we fund, I am taking funds from the other offices that right now there's no apps fund, there's no funds for people who are in poverty, and redirecting them to here to help support the office. It's kind of like some of the things that all of you deal with. If there's a real need, you'll redirect it, but it cannot be a permanent thing. It won't be permanent. Each community has to come up with funding to provide for the citizens of that community.
So are you keeping regular hours then at this office?
Yes, sir. Joy's at the office every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, she's in Junction City, because we did not move the computer system down here to put the electronic chart inside of it. So she'll document there. We have cards. I think each one of you got the cards, and then we're putting it in with the in the jails with the community as well. That large card, yes, ma'am. If you look at it on the back, and then the small one, we're giving it to the court service officer and the community correction officer that has the phone number on there for them to call. So we're here 3 to 4 days, a minimum of 3 on a short week. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 11 until 5:30 when we close, and then Tuesday and Thursday as needed to come out to meet and to just show people, do interviews and evaluations on clients.
Very good. Very well needed service. Appreciate you coming.
And thank you for coming, and we appreciate the input, and look forward to working with you on it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, was there any other questions? I wasn't sure.
If you guys would like, I can provide that statute to you.
I would like it for sure. Yes.
We have one question.
Do I have to be politically correct?
No. Never.
Your program sounds like it has merit, great merit. Do you address a spiritual aspect in your treatment?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the correct, absolutely. I legally, technically I guess the politically correct way, cannot tell them that you need to go to church, but we do encourage them to look inside themselves and make that spiritual connection that will connect you back, that will help you to stay sober and not make destructive decisions. Those are the words that I will use, destructive decision. And the definition of a destructive decision is a decision that keeps me in that cycle of drugs or alcohol and separating me from my children. So my children are not introduced to that cycle that goes forward. Absolutely. I think the seeds we sow in the ground, that tree is going to grow.
Just a little further comment on that. Do you try to touch base with like local ministerial associations so they all have knowledge of what you're trying to provide?
So, yeah, we're sending it out, and the first leaflets that we sent out were to the attorneys that were actually working in the courthouse, and now we're doing the ministerial, and I've reached out to AA and NA and Al-Anon, because I want those groups to be integral to us, because that's where we see success is in the AA and NA community, in the community.
Sure. Very good.
One other question. Have you had statistics as to drug involvement connected to suicides? Is there any type of connection there, or?
In the SAMHSA, those connections are available. I can get that information from you and bring back. Today I wanted to just come in and talk about the agency. I did not know.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think there's somewhat of a serious, but I was just wondering.
Yes, it
And
is.
I read something about that at one point in time.
There's a hopelessness that comes with, I can't ever get well, I'm always on the down, and that's where suicide steps in. And we've seen a lot of suicides.
That's another thing that just, I cannot comprehend, but I know that's very deep.
It's a,
Yeah.
And I'm clinically licensed as a mental health and a drug and alcohol. And so I can do the dual diagnosis, I can do the dual approach when it's needed.
I just want to ask Tina, when would we be able to start looking at our budget and stuff as to when we're going to start into that? I know we don't really get deep into it, what, July?
No, we'll be looking at it in May, June.
Okay.
and I know Joy gave you one of her cards when she came in.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I give you each one of my cards. And again, thank you for allowing me to come in. At any point in time, what I would like to do, we could invite you down to the office, let you look at the treatment approaches that we use, the material, so that you can become familiar with it. I'm not trying to say you need to become a drug and alcohol counselor or a therapist, but I think that it is really good when the commissioners know what's going on in the program. Today I'll stop in Judge Power's office, I'll schedule an appointment, come back and talk to him more about it. But initially we will focus on just standing the office up, getting people in. I think right now we have 9 clients from December the 17th to January to today, the 28th. That's a lot to me that's a lot of people. And then to hear the numbers that they're projecting, up to 20 people. So we know we're going to grow. And we know that need is here. It's now how we will respond to it.
Okay, thank you, and we'll anticipate hearing back from you and move forward.
Yes, sir.
Wish you the best.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Joy.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you
so
for your
much.
service.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Nancy Moore, Economic Development.
Howdy there.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is about my third or fourth time to come. I don't look forward to it because I'm basically an introverted, shy person, so it's not easy. But there's something I need to get out there, and I have two agendas. First of all, I know in the paper there's a lot about the roads. That's true. Old Mill Road is just not up to par. In fact, in October, I don't know if the grader man was drunk or on drugs, but my mailbox was damaged, and he piled up the road debris on my driveway, so I had to go over a hump. He just, I called the road maintenance office. The receptionist is very nice, amicable, and she said he'd call me. He never did. Is it Mr. Smith? I'm not sure.
Could have been
It
Mr.
was
Smith,
Jesse
yeah.
Smith at the time.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, he never returned my calls, even though I called several times. So I want to put that out there, that a bad job was done in October, and I still have a damaged mailbox.
This is, Nancy, you own the county,
Yes.
the old county home out there, where she
Okay.
lives.
The poor
Farm.
Poor farm, yeah.
And that's the second agenda. And then I think I'll let you ask questions at the end. Good news about that. And first of all, I am a little frustrated. Nothing goes perfect. I wish Marion County, and this would help economic development too, would have a center for employment, because I've always had so much work out there. I have lots of money in the bank right now from the grant. I can't spend it because I don't know where to get personnel. My degree is from Wichita State University. I have 2 masters, one in special ed, which I did teach behavior disorder, and the other one is in sociology. I've worked as a rape counselor in Wichita and Topeka, where I usually got my jobs. I didn't work in Marion except for the poor farm. I do consider myself a volunteer at the poor farm because at my age I'll never profit from it. I always felt like I was a caretaker, not the owner, and I felt like I was God sent there. I didn't realize when my husband and I bought the place that it had I didn't buy it for the history. I bought it because I wanted to live in a mansion. And it's affordable, and it's got like a dream, you know, near a lake, and country, stone. And I was really happy, and we sold our big house in Wichita because I like big houses. And we put a lot of money in there, and again, back in 1974, we couldn't find help in Marion. I think it was a stigma. Maybe I'll start there. Okay, I'm not the most disorganized person. Okay, this was my attitude. This place was a dream come true. I wanted a mansion in the country close to a lake. Wow. And it was affordable, being viewed as a desolate, unwanted place in Marion, vacant for many years. My favorite sheriff, I got to know them all because of the vandalism, which has been bad last fall. In 1973, June Jost was a sheriff. And I went to live there with my children. My husband worked in Wichita. He'd come here on weekends. He drove up one evening. I invited him in. This is what he had to say. Quote, "This is not a safe place for you. I've seen many terrible things in my job. I'd feel better if you found a more suitable place to live." But he did it out of kindness and concern. And my response was, bad people are scared of this place, and the walls are like a fortress, so I stayed. And the walls are 18 inches thick. It stood up against many storms. Okay, the good news is that, well, this happened a couple of years ago. Where's the bag? Okay, there was a book, I might have mentioned it, Dustin Roses. It was set in the Poor Farm. It's a great novel about how life was in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl. And it's set in Marion County at Old Mill Road. It became very popular that a New York publisher actually published it. So the speaker from Wichita came out to Tabor College at the senior program and gave a presentation. I go to those senior presentations. Here he is. Anyway, to my surprise, when I walked in, the room was full of people. Even they had to set out more chairs. So that tells you that there's great interest in the poor farm, because in Newton, Kansas, they even brought a busload of people out. And so all the it's kind of closed for tourism now, but before 3 years ago, all my tourists came from like Harvey, McPherson, you know, from even out of western Kansas. My relatives who live in Salina and Wichita tell me that they talk about the poor farm there at work. I mean, it's pretty well known. It's in all the guidebooks, and, you know, it's growing. I don't know why people are interested in it. Well, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's the second copy. And so I think also the, this is the one from Newton, Kansas at Bethel College. They'll probably they'll put this on the agenda in the fall, okay? Now I'm going to read you some my favorite fan letters, because even though it's a stigma here in Marion, I'm very controversial, I realize that, and so am I. So I was going to tell you a little bit about myself. I did, about my education. I'm very serious. I love to read books and do research on any topics. I'm an absent-minded professor. I have some brain dysfunction, one track, I can't multiple. So, you know, it's a struggle to really keep up the place physically, because I have focus problems, which is pretty common these days. So, you know, I think it's the diet, the food or something. Okay, my fan letters are from the tourists. This is my favorite. September 8th, 2014. My name is Stacy, and I live in Heston. I'm writing to you with so very much excitement. Several months ago, I was out photographing nature, which is my passion, and around dusk, I came across your home. Since it was getting dark, and I was on an unfamiliar road, I had to head back towards home. In the moment of seeing your grand and beautiful home, I didn't mark my location, thinking I would simply come back to the same coming days. Those coming days turned into months. I retraced my steps so meticulously, almost day in and day out. I asked neighbors in the area if a home matching my description sounded familiar. Some days I was directed to a residence that someone suspected was a home. I would drive there with so much anticipation and excitement, only to be disappointed when I arrived to find out it was not the home, not even close. I have talked to my husband and children endlessly about this home and what a story this house must hold. I drove miles upon miles over the next 3 months trying to locate where this beautiful home was. I couldn't figure out how such a large and grand home could simply disappear. I literally drove almost every square mile from Highway 15 to Peabody to Marion to Florence. I all but gave up. That was until yesterday. And then she tells about how her husband got up in the night because he couldn't sleep, and he found it on the internet. He and I hopped in the car the next day and drove 35 miles to the place. After driving all of the back roads for months, I was simply within 2 miles of your house on several occasions. When I finally had the opportunity to come face to face with your home, once again I was filled with joy. All of the endless hours, miles, and eager anticipation. At one point, a $200 toll bill, since my car broke down on the back road trying to find it, brought me to the reunion of sorts. I admired your home from the road once again and wondered inquisitively if only the walls could talk. And that is true. That's in my next point. There are 3 stories, not just one, to that place. With all of this said, I want to thank you for blessing the world with such a beautiful home and what sounds like an incredible story. I am hoping that this letter finds you to be well and still residing in the home. I was wondering, should you ever enjoy some company, I would be more than honored to hear your story and that of the home, and possibly have the amazing opportunity to learn about it and see some of the space that is a blessing to so many people over the years. I've enclosed a self-addressed stamp and my phone number. Sincerely, Stacy. Well, she fell in love with the place. And then I communicated with a woman from Boston. She was in her 40s when she first came. She was a friend of my sister's, and my sister brought her back in the 80s. And she was like, just as, had the same response this woman had. She said, of my trip to see your place was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my trip, if not the highlight. And I've always admired you as a person who has kept her own individuality. I want to add that because I am individual. And then from the McPherson bunch, it just seems like God sent tourists who uplifted me because of some bad experiences with the community. For example, there was a septic system problem with a plumber that I actually had to come here and talk to the commissioners about because the gal who was running the zoning didn't do her job right. And it shouldn't have ever passed, and she passed it, and I think you know who I'm talking about. She got fired. Anyway, and it seems like tourists come and lift up my spirits. I was pretty, down. Thank you so much for giving us a tour of your historic house. We appreciated you. Oh, I've got my glasses. We appreciated you taking the time to talk with us and share the history of the building. Keep writing the Historical Society and don't give up. I hope these pictures will help you with your contractor problem, and I hope you enjoy the others. Again, thank you for your time in the McPherson bunch. So that was a healing experience.
Actually, could I ask?
Sure.
Where are we headed with what's your
Well,
bottom line?
because this is a state
Okay.
interest, the state is interested in this place, even K-State. I just want, this is backup, but I can stop here. I mean, I don't have to read anymore.
I was just wondering how we can help you.
Yeah, what is our request?
Well, the purpose of coming here is just to, this is just the first step in a lot of steps. I have a lot of ideas for economic development, and I don't think that the county sees what's here, okay? The Chisholm Trail is here, the Santa Fe Trail is here, there's a great Adobe Museum in Hillsboro, there's a museum in Florence. It's just a county that has a lot of rich history, and I read in the paper where economic development, they don't have a vision, they don't have imagination, they don't see what could happen to bring money here. A lot of the older generations in Wichita and all over the state, they love to take trips, and they're not coming to Marion because we don't do anything to promote it. I mean, I know that the economic director in Marion is, and I appreciate that. And Andy is going to start an agribusiness and to promote his property on, the Santa Fe Trail. And I want to back him up. Andy, what's his last name?
Randy Collett? Is
No.
that, okay, that's city.
Andy.
Andy.
He works at the Elgin Hotel right now.
Andy Hansen.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, I want to back him up, and I just feel like we all need to back up people who are there are awareness among some, but I don't know, there's so much lethargy here.
Would it be safe to say then that you're here to promote tourism in our county? Is that
Yes,
okay.
that's a point.
Have you dovetailed with, I take for granted you have with Randy, have you dovetailed with Anthony?
Who's Anthony?
I'm the economic development director for Hillsboro.
Oh, yes, I'm too shy but I saw you one time, wanted to go out, get out and talk with you.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, thank you for introducing yourself.
No
because
problem. It's nice to meet you.
I cut out the article about you, as well as the others. I am making a file of ideas, and I didn't think I had time, but thank you for asking that question. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, I think that's where you're
Because-
headed, so.
Yeah, okay, exactly. I just want to also kind of put my place out there too as a great opportunity for tourists.
Yeah, and I think if
You
you
know,
work,
I'm not advertising, just show up.
if you work with Hillsborough and Marion, you know, they're working on these, and they're more than happy to include the whole county.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so-
so I'll make an appointment with you and we can discuss this.
So, you know, we appreciate the information you brought us, and if you could, you know, contact these people, they would be your best resources at present.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
and thank you for coming, and
Well, I just thought the pork farm was undervalued, and I just wanted to tell you, yeah, maybe Marion people don't like it so well, but, you know, boy, other people love it. So that's my point.
all right, thank you, Nancy.
Uh-huh.
I'll run down and talk to Jesse after the meeting and see if there's anything on file about your mailbox, because that's.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
if we've damaged it,
Well,
we
I'm
need to
glad you
replace
cut me
that.
short here.
Well,
Good.
we will do that, and see if we can help you there, but,
Okay.
and I think I've told you this before, I have a special collection with that building, because my grandfather was in that building at
I
the time,
see.
so.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
don't like to see the building just
Oh,
completely
I
forgotten.
know, and old timers used to come by all the time, and they had such nostalgia for the
Yeah.
building.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you for listening. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I enjoyed it very much. Oh, thank you. Okay, purpose accomplished, I hope.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay, Robert?
Okay, I'll be calling you. Oh, thanks so much. Now, since I'm absent-minded, have to go to the Oh, you do? Okay. All right, that's very nice.
Okay, Robert's back with us in regards to the property request that he brought to us last week.
And I don't expect that, we really literally can do it either way. Probably it's cleaner to go ahead and deed.
Folks, could we have it quiet in here, so our council can speak? Okay, go ahead.
Quit claim it to the land bank, and then let them just transfer it over. It's not a requirement, we can do it because they are a 501c3, I reconfirmed that. And given that circumstance, it can go directly to them as well. It's just a matter of whether there's any preference with the land bank to handle the properties that go through town themselves, and if there's any other assistance they can provide. And sometimes there's some things that can occur in terms of when it washes through the land bank, any tax issues that might have arisen otherwise go away. But again, I think that's moot here, because it's either one is a 501c3, it has the same impact. So when I talked to Tina this morning, I asked if we had a legal, and she thought we did, so I could prepare a quitclaim deed, and that's literally all we need to do with your direction, and we will do
Quick
so.
claim to the land bank.
And then we would require it for the land bank. Is that correct?
Okay.
There is, I did speak with Roger Holter this morning, because he's the one that kind of administers the land bank and is familiar with it. And he says that the land bank would be willing to help us with that. There is just a little application that they would have to have you fill out,
Okay,
which is
good.
like a little 2-page application, if we did it that way.
Okay.
But, again, this is in Florence, it's not here, but they were okay with assisting with it.
So unless I hear different, I think the commission's in favor of handling the transaction that way.
As long as it gets accomplished what their community is.
And that was the reason with the land bank involved as well, to be sure that, you know, there's someone overseeing that as well, and then getting it to the right hands. So that was the only reason for that thought.
Okay, let's talk about then, when they get it then, the property, is that gonna go back to taxes, or with the 501c3 it stays out?
It's tax exempt.
Tax exempt, okay.
They
It'll
would
go back
probably have to
tax.
do an application.
Yes, they're gonna have to go through the process,
Yeah.
but
You would have to do a process to get it taken out of the tax roll.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's just, it's a fairly straighthtforward application.
yeah, I understand.
Another hoop to jump.
Another hoop to jump, yes. Okay. I have no problems, I'd like to see it.
No, I think whatever we can do to expedite and help us Historical Society is a good thing.
Okay, so can we take official action to,
I
is
I
that
make
what
a
they
motion,
need to do?
we quit claim this to the Marion Land Bank so they can accomplish it, get it eventually to the Florida Historical Society.
I'd second that. Okay, then moved and seconded to go through the process of deeding that property to the Marion Land Bank. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Bob.
Here's the application
Okay.
for the land bank.
And then I give that back to them and we get it filled out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Janine?
Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry I don't have all the reports done, but I got. Pass those down there. As you can see, at the end of the year, we had a really nice balance. But January 20th happened and we distributed, we paid out $6 million, the distribution was close to $12 million. So other than doing the end of the year and starting up current year, things are pretty much going smoothly.
Commissioner White,
I do.
do you have some questions?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna give her a report, but yeah, I do have some questions for you, Janine.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically on your policy for taxpayers who pay their taxes late. I had a text message from a constituent who paid his taxes late, January the 3rd, I think he paid them, and knew he was gonna receive a penalty, you know, which I'm certainly in favor of anyone who pays late paying a penalty. But he received his he paid his taxes for the entire year, not just the first half, and he received that check back in the mail that the check was refused, along with the penalty bill. So the question that he had for me is, why did he receive his check back? Understand he had a penalty. So explain your policy on that to me, please.
Okay. We have tried many ways to get people to pay. They owe the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that. And we have tried many ways. We've tried reducing the amount of their tax payment by the amount of interest owing and applying that and sending them back information that they owe the taxes. Well, they do not open those letters. They get this man was paying personal property taxes, so he would have gotten a warrant from the sheriff because the taxes weren't paid, because he paid them late, and they have to be paid in full, since they're personal. Or if it would have been on real estate, they, even though they get multiple letters, they know they've made the payment, the check has cleared the bank, so they don't pay any attention. Then all of a sudden they get published, and they get a $16 publishing fee. And they're really, really upset with us for doing that. So this year, we're sending the check back if there's no way to contact them. If we have a phone number, we can find a phone number, we try that first. But if they know the check has not cleared the bank, they know the taxes are unpaid, and they start looking through their mail from us. And they pay the taxes, plus the penalty. So far, it's worked.
So
That's the only
Brad,
gentleman that's complained.
Brad, isn't there a way, isn't there laws or something that we can, you know, the penalty? Okay, let me just ask this way. So if he comes in and he pays his taxes, and he has the penalty, doesn't that penalty just kind of like a mean stay against that property? Or even if you get paid for it next year, would it not just stay there?
No, well, you get into a yes, no, and maybe with that. And if you go ahead and accept that as a partial, then we have to be absolutely clear that that's even done. And in some instances, that creates problems because it's very much like going to your local bank as a debtor and making a payment of what you believe to be the full amount on a loan payment. The bank accepts it, it's full satisfaction. And in certain instances, and you set up a defense for someone. It doesn't work quite the same way with these kinds of taxes, but it can. In many ways, it's better to do it this way so that it's all paid in one lump sum and you continue to accrue it. And someone has noticed that, okay, because a lot of people, if you accept it, they're going, all right, that deed took it, I guess that's it. So there's any number of ways it creates pragmatic complications or misunderstandings. I understand the question. Why not go ahead and accept what they've already paid, go ahead and cash that out and just take the rest and liquidate and hold that as a lien. But, you know, it's continuing to accrue the penalty on the amount. So it says, wait a minute, I paid that. So that's part of the reason in many instances, and this tends to be the cleanest if you want to really be clear about what it is that you're doing. No, you didn't pay the full amount. And until you do, we can't accept it.
And this was, you said, was on personal property.
Right.
So was that on, like, for vehicle renewals, or?
No, I'm not sure. It was, could have been on a truck, it could have been on a boat. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I didn't look at that.
Okay.
But since it was personal property, wasn't paid by December 20th, then the full amount becomes automatically due.
Is that the same policy then for real estate as well?
No, on real estate, you just keep accruing interest until May.
I see.
And again, the difference there, and I should have said that too, and when you're dealing with real estate, the dirt's always there.
Yeah.
Personal property, we don't necessarily have exactly the same thing. It is fungible, it's also movable. Someone can sell it off. You know, so it's difficult in certain instances, and certain types of things don't even carry.
So if this would have been on real estate, you'd cash the check.
We would probably follow the same procedure.
Okay.
For a lot of the same reasons.
Because they would have known the check did not clear the bank and the taxes went unpaid.
It's sad that you have to educate people, you know, when they're late, they're late. It's sad that you have to go through all that abuse,
If we
verbal
had a
and
perfect
otherwise.
world and everyone paid on time, it would be wonderful.
So now we've paid postage going back to them, plus original postage, and we still haven't accomplished a thing.
Well, if it's under $4, which we figure is handling both ways, we will accept the amount. So we're losing the $4, but we're,
How many of this happens per year? How many do you have happen like this per year?
I really couldn't tell you. I know if there's any way to contact them, we do. Because we realize sending somebody's check back is kind of offensive. But
Well, and I'm not disputing that. I just wanted to know what the policy was, so that I could answer this person very clearly. And then I do have a follow-up question to that also, because I'm going to use this person as an example as well. I think it was January the 3rd was the day he paid it. So, just on an average year, December the 20th is the last day that is when the taxes are due. How many through, and you go by postmark, right? When the taxes is due. So even if you receive it on the 25th or 26th, 27th, whatever, that's still acceptable, got it. Okay, but how is it then that, I mean, do you get such, do people pay their taxes on the last day a lot?
yes.
They do. So you get an overwhelming amount of tax paid in on the last day. So, okay, so then that answers my next question, because I know there's a person that paid their taxes, or well, I say they paid them, but it was actually January the 10th is when the example was showed to me over there, and the thing was, well, we go by the postmark. So January the 10th, you're still working, receive taxes from December 20th?
This year we were, because the way the holidays fell and the mailing, and people seem to call each other and all come in on one day together, that it was an unusual year, because usually we have them all work by the 31st.
Okay, and I thought that was awful long,
Yes,
but okay, all right.
It's just human instinct.
you know, there's
can't
never
change that.
something that runs exactly right, so.
Okay, well, you answered my questions, thank you, and now I know now what the policy is. Sir, oh, I'm sorry.
And when you send the check back, does it still incur penalty charges for day by day?
No, we go by, if we send it back on the 3rd, we give them the amount for the 3rd, and that's what we,
And that locks it up?
yes. Unless they don't do anything for 6 months, and then other recourses have happened by then.
Generous, doesn't it? Is that necessary?
No, but it's generous.
I mean, that's extremely generous, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Well, because we don't wanna send it back again. So if they give us the amount that we.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So what is the penalty? Is it, what, it's only a small amount anyway, is it a small
No,
penalty?
no, it's not anymore. It's what, is it 10%?
Yeah, I think that went up with the statute, so yeah, it is, it's quite a
Is
bit
it
more
10%
than it used to be.
right from the start, or is it 10% occurring?
It's always simple interest in that it never compounds. So it'd be, so yes, now it does accrue greater. And if you have more than $10,000 to pay, it's even higher than that, so.
But yet we still have a lot of people on the 3-year cycle.
And we get an awful, yeah.
And do they realize how much penalty they're paying?
But you know what, that's a self-inflicted wound, is people who don't pay their taxes. I have no, very, very little remorse for people who get penalties because they don't pay them. You know, I really don't, so I don't care about that. I'm just wondering why that 6 months of no occurring of tax. Because the person who didn't make the effort and said, hey, that's a good way, go ahead and send in a check late, then you know you're gonna get the check back, and you're not gonna incur interest for 6 months. Seriously?
We better stop there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Don't do that, you know, we usually say within 14 days or 20 days or, so.
Wow.
I ask, was it postmarked the 3rd, or was it arrived on the 3rd?
Well, I'm sure it was postmarked after the due date.
So I mean, what I'm wondering is, can they use their first check and write another check for the penalties?
Yes.
As for taxes purposes,
Yeah.
you know, for end of the year statements and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we try to give people a chance to have, I know they do their income tax from their checks usually, and so we want that amount to be accurate for them. Try to help as much as we can. Kind of a thankless job, but it's numbers and we love them, so what can I say?
I just really quiver when I see the paper come out and all the people that don't pay their taxes.
And I quiver when I get the bill.
Because it's sad, because a lot of us who do pay our taxes, you know.
Well, and unfortunately, we pay for those people that don't pay timely because the first thing an entity wants to know is the delinquency factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think rather than being more generous, we should be more tough to try to help stop some of that. It's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Have a good week.
You also.
Stay warm if possible.
No kidding.
Hey, Rob. Morning. Morning.
Kind of an unscheduled pit stop, but what I've got is some changes that have recently occurred, that will have caused me some concern, and so I'm here for a request. We talked about a budget time that I was going to ask next year for personnel. I'm gonna move that up, because of some things that have happened. I'm losing one for 7 to 8 months, beginning the 1st of February for military leave. I've also got one in that same time frame gone to school at Hutchinson to become a certified officer, which has pulled us down. I now have investigator working in shift instead of investigating. I have an undersheriff working a shift instead of doing undersheriff responsibilities. That in mind, I would ask for 2, and can guarantee took a minimum of an hour. Some of them might take all day or weeks, but that was our caseload from last year. Dividing that up between the 6 road deputies is quite a lot of cases. Those are everything from accidents to information reports to major felony cases. Everything is combined in that number. The ability to pay for one through October would be saved by the funds not paid to the one that will be going to the military. We can transfer those, but that leaves 2 or 3 months there at the end of the year that would have to be caught up somewhere.
So you're asking for 2 deputies?
I know we talked at budget time that next year was my plan because of things that we did this year that we were able to get into the budget this year because things we needed, but this is unforeseen, and I have a sneaking suspicion that probably after the one individual gets back from his 7, 8 months of military, that it won't be long and they'll be gone for a year. Just my suspicion, they don't normally train you to that level and then not utilize you. So I would suspect that he would be gone. And then I would be back here doing the exact same thing at that time, and I'd like to stay one step ahead of that because we're crunched for personnel, and I don't want to diminish our services.
I don't think you can you?
No, I really don't want to at all. In fact, we're scrambling to meet services the way it is now, and I would like to better enable us to provide those basic services that everybody wants and needs.
Do we have others that might have a military commitment coming up also?
No, he is the only one that I have current that is active in reserve regards either one. So, and I applaud his commitment, and I will do everything to help him in that, but it puts a hurt on us. We've been gone quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 months doing special projects that they have assigned him to Washington, D.C. and other places here over the last. So we've covered those, but I've about beat everybody up over there all I can. Covered these ships.
You put 2 people on though, and they're not academy trained. What does that do to you?
Well, I have one that would be available. That would be a good stopgap measure for the immediate. That the other one could be partially trained at our level, and then would be put into the next school. We just got to bite the bullet as far as what we do over there to get through this, because either way it's going to be ugly for us with personnel.
That's still maintaining 2 shifts per day, per shift, 2 people per shift.
Yes, that would be increased.
3 shifts.
I've got 3 shifts, morning, mid, and night. I keep 2 on at night, especially when that's where I'm having a hard time keeping those filled right now, because both the guys that I'm losing are from that, so I'm putting people down, which includes the detective. So I hate to lose that ability because it's something we need.
Well, in that position, the caseload never
goes away. No, you're never done.
So I believe that, my point would be, from my personal perspective, we need to keep that service.
I think by law, statute, we have to.
Well,
So, yeah, I certainly
the
support
good
that.
thing is, up through October, we're basically covered because of the salaries that would be paid that he won't be drawing while he's with the military, because they'll cover his insurance and salary while he's there. So that leaves us that 7, 8 months worth of salary I can put towards one other person, and that leaves 2 or 3 months at the end of the year plus one other one if we can make that happen.
I've been here quite a while. How many times you come in and ask for officers, Rob, since you've been on?
2,
Oh, no,
maybe
keep going, keep
maybe
going.
3. I don't know, 3.
Keep going. You've built the service up, Rob. You have. We was at a minimum
We were.
when you took
Trying to
over.
think how many times we added a detective. We added a 2, 3. I'm gonna say 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, we
Over a 10-year period.
Yeah, right, correct. I'm not gonna deny that a bit. I will, and I understand, we've been out there when this guy come to this county and worked many hours with him, so I have no problem with that. I will say that there is some general public out here that feels that we have too many. And until they need you, they can holler, and then after they, yeah.
Some will always feel that way, and
Yeah.
I understand that. But yet, when that person calls, we're still gonna provide services.
Yeah, yes.
Whether, whoever it is, that's not our issue. So we're,
Plus geographically, we don't have any kind of small area covered. We have a lot of miles.
we've got just under 1,000 square miles to cover, and with 1 or 2 people, and in today's world, what has changed drastically from my early days, your days, is the number of calls for service, the types of calls we get, and the severity of the calls, and in a lot of cases, the non-severity of the calls. I can remember at times when I might be the only officer, even though with the patrol, on duty in the county. We just covered things that, everything that came along, I would take care of as a trooper.
We just now got a trooper in our county, right?
Yes, we have a full-time trooper now in the county, which has helped with, with some of the accidents on the highway, and made that a little bit better, but
At one time, we had 2 or 3 in the county.
at one time we had 3.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference on
Yes.
major roads.
Yes.
It does, it takes a lot of heat off of us, but we still have to respond because we don't know where he is, and we can call, but if they don't have one within 40, 50, 60 miles, it's kind of, I don't like to call and have them send one from Salina to here to work something. By the time they get here, we could probably have a good portion of it done, even though it may bring out for another 2 or 3 hours, depending on what it is and the severity of the accident and how much cleanup there is. But it ties up our officers so that the other calls for service that we're waiting, that we're responsible for, are holding. Because we can't just walk away from this situation. So there's some, they do what they can. They've been short-staffed as well as us. And we are making inroads, and we're thankful to have our trooper, and I've talked to Highway Patrol, see if we can get another one. We'll see.
Where's the state on that? I mean, they're at quite a few less troopers than they were 10 years ago, aren't they? Or is it just at the station?
Basic road troopers, yes, they're mandated by, or dictated by statute as to the number of personnel they can have. But they're again, they're kind of like we are. We get mandates that we must do this, we must do that. So therefore, they have to assign personnel to do this or to do that. So those personnel still count towards their allotted number, but they're not necessarily on the road anymore. They maybe have other things that they have to do.
It's kind of the same way with wildlife officers, which are actually
they
can, handle police activities also.
Yes, they are certified, and they can do everything that any other law enforcement officer can do in the state. But their primary function is, fishing, game, parks, boating, things like that. But yes, they can do everything else as well.
We used to have one in the county all the time.
We have
Now
now
that person covers what, 3 counties?
Yes, 3 or 4 counties, but for a while we had none. So we have one now, active, and it's great to have him here.
I value this about like the jail. When we started back then in the 70s, it was, if we had 3 in jail, and then maybe 6 on the weekend, we had a big load. And now you have a steady 8 to 9, if not more.
We're averaging 15 to 16.
15 to 16, so.
Through a year's time.
So that's something that's increased, just like what you're talking about officers. Is there, and I understand what you're talking about so many different type of cases and stuff like that, Rob. Is there any number that we can put to this to say this is the number of officers that Marion County will stop at until another 10 years goes by?
I don't know that you could put a definite number on that because I don't know what 5 years from now will be.
I understand that.
You know, I know that I don't believe I have tried to increase more than is necessary. I too don't like to pay taxes any more than anybody else does, but I understand the responsibilities and ramifications if we don't do our job, if we can't perform these basic functions.
And Rob, I'm going to take a different approach of it, because not only do you have to worry about the number of calls, but the danger involved in today's world of those calls. And our police officers and sheriffs are put in extreme danger with the calls and just the situations. And I will also add, and I will say, when it comes to the sheriffs, the police department, and things like that, I have an entirely different approach because I happen to know through the trainings that I go through that you need to staff your people as you need them, and we as the county will pick up that bill because safety is number one.
Safety is paramount.
That's right. And
for
you need
public
people.
and officers. You know, 10 years ago, when was the last time there was a shooting in Marion County involving officers? A long time ago. I've had 2 in the last 2 years. One was officer involved, one was not officer involved, but we were involved in the aftermath. Just recent. So the types of calls we get have increased in their severity. There have been a lot of also calls for service that I would call not severity.
But I even learned at this year's training, even things that we oftentimes take for granted, because I did. You talk about just a jailer, the guy that just sits there and, well, I don't know what the duty is there, but oftentimes we take that for granted. But I went to a class just a couple months ago about the cost that it's going to cost the county if we don't have a jailer there all the time that's on alert, watching these prisoners. It could be detrimental to any county. In fact, it has been to 1 or 2 already. So, I mean, within your department, I don't know that we can be real tight and screechy with how many people we have. We need what we need to do the job.
I thank you, and I assure you I won't ask for more than is
Well,
necessary.
and I respect that.
We thank you for being prudent, but, you know, we want to work with you. If you need people, you need people.
It's, things have changed.
It's a big bad world.
Not what it was when I started, when you were there. We have better training and better equipment now than we did.
We just got 2 bullets, don't we?
But it's, you know, it's just something that we have to keep up with. And I don't want to play catch up any more than I have to.
You can't afford it.
With these things. The calls never end. The 911 has increased the communications dispatch payload, where it's so easy to call 911 versus dialing the old number, which is great for those in need. It's an easy way to get hold of us. But it has also increased the non-essential calls that we still have to respond. Because we don't know. Like I say, every of those 850-some calls, I can guarantee every one was an hour at minimum. Some are, you know, 3, 4, 6 hours, days, working on things. So I just want to stay ahead of the game so that we're not too far behind down the road.
I appreciate that.
And I know I talked earlier about at budget time that I was going to ask for this next year, but things have changed that have required us stepping up.
And actually, at budget time, we still might want to consider where we are looking forward.
I'll have
Stepping
a
up
better
little more.
grasp of where we are, and we can
Yeah.
look at things then. But I can say for the next 6 or 8 months, this is gonna be critical, or 7 or 8 months, that this is gonna be critical, that we find some way to fill these, and so I don't have, a deputy out there from 6 o'clock on in the evening all by himself.
Right.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. We don't want that.
Good. Yep.
Okay. Do we need to take any official action to allow Rob to move on this, being as it wasn't budgeted for?
I think if you did, I don't know, consensus, if everyone agrees, or if you want to take official action, you can, whenever you have to. I mean, what do you think?
What's the feeling of the commission? Do you want to take official action or just consensus?
Well,
Yeah, it's the
I
budget,
mean,
it pertains to
it
the
needs to be
budget.
done.
Since it's coming out of the budget, I think
Formal
formal
action
action is gonna be better.
Official action.
Be better too.
Yeah, official action.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion at this time then to approve the request of Rob for additional staffing.
And I'll second that. And we seconded, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
while Sheriff Kraft is still here, may I ask a question?
Yeah, if you can do it quickly.
I can.
Okay.
The repeater in Florence was originally the property of the city of Florence and their fire department and ambulance service. When the ambulance went county, they came in and took possession of it. Now that it's not needed for the 800 system, only works with the 400 system, we would like to have it back. And I know that's been requested before. I've talked to Sheriff Kraft. Nobody seems to have a problem with letting Florence have it back, but it hasn't happened. And we do own the frequency that goes with that. The city of Florence owns the frequency on that repeater.
Yes, we talked about this previously. We, as a sheriff's department and as a county, I don't know that we have any use for that equipment. At one time, it was belonged to Florence when the county took over the EMS, and then they took over the maintenance and the ownership of the. So if it goes back, it would go back with the understanding that it's yours from this day forth. As far as I would be concerned, but it would be your decision as to what to do with it. We don't have a primary function for that at this point. If we don't have a use for it, I don't see a problem in turning it back to Florence, as long as they accept the responsibility of any maintenance, repair, whatever.
Right.
With radios being talked about, do you know of any major work coming up on the state stack tower out here?
Yes, this summer, June, I believe they're going to completely, I won't say gut, but completely rebuild the whole system in that tower. This is one of the major towers for the state.
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have it here. And they are, everything that's in there is, I don't know how old, since they built it. I don't know if it's been replaced in the interim or not, but it's going to all be replaced in June, I believe it is.
I think that's in
And at
relation to
that
fire
time, it
department.
will improve our situation just because of the improvements in the equipment that's in there.
Well, thank you, and as long as we never intend to go back to these things, this 400, but there are 2 or 3 departments, I think maybe that's why you want it, or whether you want it for your city, I don't know.
We actually want it for our city. That's the instructions I was given by the fire chief.
Yeah.
Was
Some
that
of
we
these-
want it for our city
You know,
because
some of
we
the
have the
cities-
frequency.
Some of the cities can activate their tornado sirens and things
Right.
like that off of the old system, and that's the ones that I've spoken to, that seem to be the primary.
Right.
And then there's some departments, the way I understand it, that still wants to go back to it. I mean, they want
Well,
that kind of
and they like to talk
capability.
around function that
Yeah.
would run through the 400 repeater.
So I'm just saying to the commission that if we ever take a step back and take that over again and do this, why, now we give some away, and not saying it's a liability, I'm just saying that as long as we can work together on somehow, I don't have no problems.
Do you have any problem with denying? I guess we need to take official action then to give that equipment back, repeater.
Right, to the city of Florence and their fire department.
I'd make that motion to do that with the restraining order if the county comes back, that we can team back up again.
I'm sure that's
To use that.
agreeable.
Okay.
I'm sure that's agreeable.
I would second that. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to give the repeater equipment back to the city of Florence and the fire department. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you for taking action.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, Travis?
Good morning. Not a lot has changed in the last week, but I would like to request executive session for property acquisition,
Yeah. How long will you need?
15 minutes.
Okay. You want to include
To
Brad?
include Brad and
And Tina.
as well.
Okay. I'll go ahead then and move that we recess into executive session.
Do you wanna, that's the last one, do you wanna get the publics done before we go into that?
Well, that would be the last thing on the agenda. Do we have any public input this morning? Okay. If not, I'll move that we recess into executive session to discuss property acquisition pursuant to KSA 75-431-9B/6. The primary discussion of acquisition